Hey dude, have I got a deal for you? The latest, hottest knife, brand new inbox, never opened before, $500. What the hell, bro? That knife is like $200, brand new. What's with the $300 upcharge? Hey man, there's only so many that are available. This was a limited run, and this is like one of 200. So, sorry, but if you want it, that's the price. What you're doing is unethical, man. How come you're gonna charge like more than double the price of the knife? Like, come on, I really want that knife. Listen, bro, not everybody's gonna be able to get what they want, man. You need a tissue? $100. What's going on, everybody? The Real Sharif M here, aka Mangan of Steel, your favorite knife designer, here with a discussion today. But before I get into that, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like the video and join into the comment section below. Now, today's topic is all about flipping knives. Is it ethical? What are the caveats, etc., etc.? Now, a little bit of background here. Metal Complex a few days ago did a video on the subject where he talked at length about how he doesn't like there to be flipping knives for profit. And Neeves Knives jumped in with a response video talking about, you know, his beef, which is a great like little clickbait on the subject in response to that. Now, I watched both of the videos, and Neeves' kind of stance is that it's completely okay, whereas Metal Complex's is he's against it. Now, I wanted to kind of chime in, and for the most part, really, I agree with Neeves, right? If the TLDR of this entire video is going to be that I ultimately agree with him. Now, in some cases, I can completely admit it sucks. But it is the nature of living in a capitalist system and in a system where people are, you know, hustling in these, you know, communities. It's just how it goes. So let's kind of dig into my perspective and kind of the debate here, right? The premise of the debate is, should people, you know, buy knives that they know they're not going to own in order to turn around and flip them for profit? Metal Complex's stance is like, no, that's not really ethical. You're preventing somebody who wants the knife for their collection to get it. Whereas Neeves' kind of stance is, yes, ethics doesn't really kind of get into that because the person, you know, took the time, they have their knowledge, they did the research, they put their own money on the line, and so based on that, they should be able to reap the profits of making that kind of effort. And fundamentally, on some level, I kind of land somewhat in the middle here, but I definitely bias towards Neeves' position, because really, I have a very sort of capitalistic mindset, and nobody is going to tell me not to try and make money when I can, right? And ultimately, I don't feel that true ethics, in the honest sort of conception of ethics, really falls into this space, right? The reason why I say this is because if you really want to talk about ethics and denying people things, right? We can look at Big Pharma, for example, where, you know, they are making a product in which somebody needs. You know, they need it to potentially survive or have a decent quality of life, okay? And if they overcharge for that, or they price it in such a way where the person is not able to survive or have a decent quality of life, that triggers an ethical debate, okay? Over here in the knife community, these are not needs. These are fundamental wants, toys, playthings, whatever you want to call it. So when you make that transition from needs to wants, wants is just anything goes. It's completely as the market determines, okay? And that's the premise of my stance. Now, there are a lot of scenarios where this plays out, right? For example, plenty of you guys know that I'm into pew-pews, right? So, for example, I'd love to get my hands on like a Glock 48, right? Or a Glock 45. But in California, they're off roster here, right? So a typical $500, $600 gun, if you go and try and get it in the store, if they even have one, will usually be listed for between $1,200 and $2,000, right? But the reality is, somebody is willing to pay that for that Glock. It is what it is. Another place where I see this is in the car community, okay? So Subaru made these, factory mufflers called the Genome series. When they sold them new, they were like $300. I had one on my old Bug-Eye WRX, right? And actually, I think they may have even been cheaper, right? But now, since we are that was 2002, so we're basically like 21 years later, right? One of those mufflers goes for $800. And it's not a high performance muffler, but it has, the Subaru branding and an embossed like STI logo on it, okay? If you're a person who knows what that is, dug that out, found it, etc., you have the right to charge whatever you want to charge for it because it's a want. It's not a need. I can name another industry where this goes on, right? Swatch and Tag Heuer collaborated to make an affordable version of one of Tag Heuer's like most popular models, and they called it the Moon Swatch. They only released it at certain stores for around $260, but if you search Moon Swatch right now on eBay, you'll see them going for $500, $600, $700, $800 sometimes. Right? Because they are limited, they're hard to come by, you have to wait in line, they're only at certain locations, etc., right? I want all of these things that I just talked about. Would it be nice if I could get the Glock for $600, right? Would it be nice if I could get the muffler for $300? It'd be phenomenal if I could get the Moon Swatch for $260, but I can't, right? And guess what? My life goes on. My life is completely okay without these things. And ultimately, sure, would I like them? Would I like to have, these toys to play with? Absolutely, right? But I do not begrudge the people who are flipping these things and who are making the effort, traveling to these locations where you can find these things, or have a scenario where they could actually buy the thing like the Glock because it's off roster. It's typically law enforcement officers. Law enforcement officers are criminally underpaid. So if they can make a few bucks by flipping an off roster gun, by all means, be my guest. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of the situation. And fundamentally, part of my problem with Metal Complex's argument is that it's so based on like caveats and kind of fundamental twists and turns, right? Like, it's okay if the guy had it, he enjoyed his collection, but he got burned out and wanted to sell it to build this project car. But it's not okay if he got it and enjoyed it for like a couple of days and then decided to flip it and sell it. Like, how are you supposed to know? How are you supposed to know? You cannot make those assessments. And even if you ask the person straight up, right, because that would be the logical argument, oh, well, you just talk to the person, you find out what their motivation was. They could be lying, right? So, like, I don't, any argument shouldn't in order to be an effective argument for one stance or the other, really shouldn't need a lot of caveats and conditionalities in order to be a convincing argument. As far as I'm concerned, the only sort of argument here in terms of ethics is it a want or a need? If it's not a need in your life in order for you to exist, right, and to have a decent quality of life, then it classifies as a want, right? And because of that, it doesn't trigger an ethical discussion, period, you know? And that's my perspective on the issue. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know where you guys stand on this issue. But ultimately, it's here, right? Like this whole situation, buying ice, flipping them, etc., etc. It's here to stay. And, you know, yeah, it'd be nice if you could get everything your heart desired. But unfortunately, that's life. It's not going to happen. I'd love to have a, you know, freaking Lamborghini and a Ferrari and, you know, X, Y, and Z and, you know, a $500,000 watch and a $20 million home. But it's not going to happen, right? It's just, it is what it is. You're not always going to get what you want. And to sit here and complain about it, honestly, feels a little juvenile to me. Honestly. And it feels a little disingenuous and, you know, fundamentally feels somewhat anti-capitalism in my kind of perspective, right? Like, allow people to make a profit, allow people to make money, you know, and if you want to judge them, I can't stop you from judging anybody in your life, but, you know, I respect the hustle. I grew up in Detroit. I understand the hustle. I've done different hustles throughout my life. I respect it. I may not like it, but I respect it.